Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast with me, Sid Sexton, and my good friend Keith Glines. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Sid.
Still morning-ish. Rainy day here in South Alabama, but man, we've got a podcast sort of recapping one of our experiences and pretty dang influential experience and something that blew my expectations. Keith and I went to the EOS Worldwide Conference in Indianapolis just recently, and it vastly exceeded my expectations, and we have pages upon pages of notes, and it was literally like a day and a half. So we thought we would try to cull all that information down and just give you some highlights from it. And if you're operating on EOS, you should definitely look into the next worldwide or annual conference in San Diego next year, 2024, April 2024. And if you're not running on EOS, maybe this helps you get interested in it. We've talked about it enough. So, Keith?
Yeah, I think so. We've drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%.
But this helped me solidify it even further.
Yeah.
Because you always wonder, like am I just the only one that sees this, or does other people? And it really solidified for me that, man, from businesses from all backgrounds are using EOS as their system.
Yeah, that's a good point. I noticed a lot of law firms running on EOS, which I thought was interesting. It makes sense once I started talking to them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I just, and then creative firms and service companies and,
yeah,
there was just the whole gamut was there.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. There was over 2,000 people there, which ended up being way bigger than I thought it would be too.
Yeah, and the speakers were just fabulous. Every one of them.
I don't know why I didn't have like this super high expectation for EOS, because I should have. They're constantly, just the whole process that are in place is designed to help you get better and better and better and better. And I don't know which year this was. I'd need to look into that, but they've done it a few years, right? And so I should have expected it to be a pretty high level event, and I just didn't, and it blew me away.
It did me also. And, I'm always skeptical when I spend what I spent to go to this conference.
Sure.
And then is it going to be that valuable to me? Because it's an investment.
Yeah. Time, money.
Yeah.
Effort.
And Indianapolis was awesome also.
Dude, I was going to end with that, but now that you've broached that subject, I've never really been to downtown Indianapolis, and it was fantastic. Holy cow. Clean, nice. The people were fantastic. The service was great everywhere we went.
The food was excellent everywhere.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was a good time. So what were some highlights for you, Keith?
I've been to a lot of conferences, and one of the highlights for me was actually the quality of the breakout sessions, because most of the time when you think about breakout sessions, you're thinking, okay, these guys aren't going to be able to teach me much, but the quality of the main sessions were wonderful, but I actually walked out with more knowledge, perspective, excitement out of the individual sessions, the small sessions on the topics that I was interested in out of this conference, which I thought was big for me, to be able to go to a breakout session and actually pay attention.
Yeah, that's big for you.
Yeah,
well done.
It is. And so, and then just the overall, just what I took away from the whole experience, like life, marriage, family, business, all of that. Kind of everything we talk about here, they talked about there.
EOS life and the overlaps within.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite breakout session?
Well, and I told you when I was going in.
Oh yeah, I'm
to the breakout session.
Yeah, this is a setup. Go ahead.
I said I'm going to go to this marketing thing, and I'm going to eat him alive.
Yeah.
And because that's what I do. I'm a content producer and content creator. And so I was really interested in that session where Kyle Mealy talked about ad spend and marketing pertaining to social media. Because for one, it was a social media content company putting it on.
Okay.
And so I thought it was just going to be a big sales pitch, but I walked away with so much valuable content. Matter of fact, I came home and I changed my whole perspective on the marketing for this podcast and the marketing for my company. That, I've never had a shift like that.
Okay.
And so he started with the kind of the pyramid of marketing and where we spend our time as far as mailers, social media posts, anything that's client facing. And it just changed my whole perspective on where we should be putting our time. And so he talked about the pyramid of this, of three things: transactional, flashy, and trust. And most of the time if you look at social media, you'll kind of agree with this. And he's right in the fact that the easiest form of marketing is transactional.
Okay. We just explain that a little bit.
Okay. So for instance, you create a post. I have this service for this $1.
Buy now. Yeah.
Call us today.
Oh, call us today. Got it. A call to action for this product.
For
this service.
For this service.
Gotcha.
And that's great for a product that's $20.
Okay.
You can do that. You can say, buy this shirt off Facebook today, $20. It can be catchy.
You either want the shirt or you don't.
Yeah.
And here's how you do it.
Like my thick filet shirt I just bought.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thick filet. Love it.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
And so I saw the shirt, $20. I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in an industry where you're asking $700 for someone,
okay,
it's really hard to put your service out there. And I'm sure you can agree with this. It's really hard to put your service out there to come let us maintain your lawn. It's going to be $700 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's a transactional service. If you were to put
flashy though,
flashy is this. Our product does this.
And so is flashy mean that it's like flashy advertisement, or is it some different? Or
flashy advertisement.
And so is that we've got a video and a drone swoops in, and then we got this stuff, but it doesn't really say anything?
It doesn't really say anything.
Okay.
And so it builds, and so the best level of marketing,
the pinnacle of
marketing is trust. And he put it like this.
Okay.
The Mayo Clinic cannot do flashy marketing or transactional marketing. They can't put out, let us take care of your grandmother who's very sick in a good way other than trust base.
Yeah. So how do you develop trust in marketing?
I had a call with Kyle last week. I called him up and I was like, bro, you blew my mind. And I told him right after his session, I said, you blew my mind in this because I've been searching I'm in publishing and searching for my publishing company because I've spent a lot of time doing flashy marketing. Hey, I'm here on this trip, doing this thing, going these places. Let me publish your book, authors.
Mm.
And so he put it this way. He said, you are the hospital for your industry.
Okay.
So whether I want to publish an individual's book, I'm the answer for the problem that they have.
Okay.
And I have to build trust with them, just as a hospital would for their patients to take care of their ailment.
Okay.
And so that changed my perspective on the way that I even approach marketing and the way that I'm going to, in the future, develop it out.
Does it seem similar to StoryBrand though, where
It
it's
does.
like
You have to tell your story.
hero is the client has problem, you come in as the guide, help them solve the problem, all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just maybe a little more efficient.
It's a little more efficient, and the quality of stuff that I'm going to put out in the future, I'm going to really pay attention to it, because how often do we put stuff out there and then look at it after it gets on the web, after it gets on Instagram, Facebook, and go, I don't even know if I believe in that.
Maybe. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And because it's just flashy?
And because it's just flashy.
I gotcha.
We just tell what we can do without ever backing it up.
Or explaining how.
Or explaining how or why you need our service.
Gotcha.
Or why you need to use us to fix because if you're in business, what are you typically doing? Trying to solve someone else's problems, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the problems that we solve lead us to the success that we have typically.
Mm-hmm.
And so what problem are you solving? And how do you do that in a marketing space? So how do you solve people's problems and build the trust that you need, build the trust in others? And so it just blew. I'd never heard it put in that perspective.
I like it. It does sound a little bit like StoryBrand, but I didn't go to that session, but it does sound. You did talk about it a lot. So and I was kind of waiting for this to ask those questions about StoryBrand. It does seem a little more efficient. It seems a little more focused, and a little bit easier for me to follow. Like I fully understand the transactional marketing, which lots of people do. It's, I'll say this, relatively lazy, but it makes sense to someone that says, I need to put something out so they know that this is what we do and this is how much it costs. Then the flashy one makes sense because that's what you see others do. So it's sort of going with with the times, I guess, or trying to look the part.
Right.
So, our marketing needs to do this with, that's why I said like the drone swooping in and then blah, 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 and different angles and lots of action and, all that stuff. But it doesn't really like build a relationship with the client to say that these are the problems that you have, our ideal client has, and these are what we do to solve it, and partner with us because we can solve your problem for you.
Well, let me put it in perspective. Let me put it in perspective of this podcast. So we sit down behind these mics and talk for an hour with great intentionality.
Mm.
And then the next day when the episode comes out, I spend a minute thinking about the post that I'm going to make about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I even think about how do we connect with the business owner with 7 team members that's getting to that point where it's outgrowing him or her and they need a little more inspiration and a little more guidance to get to the next level to make their life a little easier. Though I don't know how, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about how do I connect to that person. I spend a lot of time thinking about what problems they have and what information or inspiration can we give them this week or this quarter.
And so the whole concept that Kyle was teaching in that class was think
about how to connect with them.
Yeah. Have intentionality with your marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often do you see marketing with no intentionality?
That's true, man.
We're just checking the box.
We're just shotgun blast and every day sending out, just checking the box, one post, one story, one reel, whatever.
And I think some of that is that we hear all these marketing experts saying, just post 15 posts a day, 30 posts a day.
Don't worry about the content.
Don't worry about the
Out.
content. Yeah, just get it out. Tell you. And so maybe we should have a little more intention in telling our story in our marketing. And that's the way that I walked away from it.
I like it.
And I'm telling you, over this last 2 weeks, week and a half, I've totally changed I halted every piece of marketing going out in the publishing.
And making a wholesale shift in the way you approach it with greater intentionality as the focus.
Yeah, and thinking about everything that I'm going into now. And we just came out of our quarterly meeting for the podcast, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that we talked about was having intentionality in the way that we direct our episodes.
Yeah.
And so that's what I brought away from it. And I think that's I think if everyone would do that you would change a lot of the things that's going on in the marketing space in your company. But
as we know, not everyone's going to do that.
No.
So this is actually, it's difficult to do, to be intentional with your marketing and with your ad spend and your messaging, who you're trying to connect with and what problems they have and how you solve it. It takes a little more time, a little more effort, but if you do that, that's how that obstacle is the opportunity.
Right. The obstacle is the way when you think about it.
Yeah.
And so something clicked with me when I thought about how I am the hospital for my industry. Think about all the things a hospital does.
Yeah, they treat patients. Mayo Clinic, aren't they the cancer people? I don't know, man.
They are the place that you want to send anyone in your family that has cancer.
Gotcha.
And they didn't get there just by being flashy. They had great intentionality, and they talked about the results in their marketing. So what results are you creating in your market? And that's probably the real thing is we don't even know the results we're creating in our markets.
Ooh,
we're not even quantifying it.
That's good.
So before you can do proper marketing, I think you have to quantify.
Yeah. You need to be measuring it.
Yeah.
Quantifying results.
Right.
Okay. I like it.
Which is what EOS is all about, right?
I know it is.
So,
yeah.
So that hit me hard.
Gotcha. I like it. Anything else?
Of course, I can't remember, and you probably have your notes pulled up, but Gino Wickman knocked it out of the park. Of course. But
that guy's legit, man.
Yeah. His 7 things.
Yeah.
To define good leadership.
Yeah. Super good.
Yeah. Super great. How about you?
All right.
What did you take away?
So for me, I was really, I went to the conference with intentionality. And the main thing I was looking for is, over the last, 12 months, I've been little by little and more taking steps towards fully fulfilling my role as the visionary. And to be totally open and honest, there's a little bit of guilt and a little bit of not insecurity, but just unknown about that role. That role is less task driven and less to-dos and rocks and things that traditionally make me feel productive and valuable to the organization, to whatever, right? And the visionary's role is much more thinking time and casting the vision and listening and solving big problems, but over a longer period of time. So there's less immediate gratification. And so I've been waffling back and forth and struggling with how do I execute that role? How do you just do it? And so I just was hoping to understand that role better and having a more clear path of what I'm supposed to be doing. And I would say that and I didn't really realize this, but they had a whole visionary, track for you. If you just looked at the little schedule that they handed out, it was like, oh, this is all the visionary ones. Here you go, And so, and there were multiple, but just running through quickly my quick notes. Number one, the opening speaker, her name was Tiffany Sauter. I believe she's going to be on the podcast soon. We've been in contact with her. She was fantastic. She really opened the whole meeting about vulnerability, which I thought, well, this is going to be stupid. You know,
I love vulnerability.
I know you do. You love it. And I was like, well, I don't see how this is helpful. Like, you know, there's 2,000 of us and we're all running businesses. How's that important? And
you were just afraid somebody was going to hug you.
I wasn't afraid of that. I just was, you know, I was trying to get value. You know, we spent some significant dollars to get there and be a part of, and time away and all this stuff. Right. And it's the first thing. And I've hopped up on coffee, I'm sure. And I'm like, oh, great. Now this is what we're going to talk about. But, she had lots of stuff like living vulnerably is the willingness to be exposed to an unknown outcome. Vulnerability is just opening the door. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then she talked about her story. And it's every entrepreneur's story, you know. It's, hey, I came out of the gates. I started this deal. Obviously, she'd been educated and had worked in other marketing firms and opened her own in Indianapolis. And clearly, she was smart. Clearly, she was driven, organized, professional. And it didn't take her long to build up, you know, a good client base and to get real good results. After about 5 or 6 years, she was really cruising, building her team, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually it got to the point where her business was eating her alive. She had 3 kids, she had a marriage, and she really got vulnerable about how the marriage started to basically fall apart. They were just passing each other in the night, resentment built up, people, you know, more and more people on the staff came on board. She wasn't managing them well. She got really angry with those people because they just weren't doing things right, whatever. You know, she went into that and she had to come to the realization that she was the constant in all of that. You know, she was the one common denominator, and it was her that had to change. And, you know, in comes EOS and, you know, starts changing her life and taking full responsibility and accountability for her to-dos. And, you know, EOS gave her a framework to start working through some of that stuff. And it was touching, you know, as a talk on vulnerability probably should. But it was a great way. It was interesting how you started with that talk seemed to get me fired up to go and have an open mind and listen and learn in the next, you know, when we had the breakout sessions from there. And I thought I was like, man, they really did a great job of setting that right there.
Well, I think she set the theme.
Yeah, she did.
For the whole conference. Because
I agree.
Even in the breakout sessions, everyone talked about hard conversations.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we really shy away from in business a lot.
Yeah.
Is hard conversations. And so even when you listen to her talk, it was about hard conversations with her team, with her husband, with everybody in her life.
Yeah.
And not shying away from those.
Yeah. Man, some of the quotes, and I was just kind of cruising through my notes here. I just wrote so many notes on her talk alone, and I didn't think that I even wanted to listen to it. But pick the things that align with the outcomes you want in your life, and don't forget it's all hard. It's all hard. She talked about that. Like, things are just hard, you know? That's the barrier to leveling up. We talked about that in earlier podcasts. It was just a good reminder. And then she said, the people you're making, she talked about relationships and with her husband specifically, kids specific, you know, in another instance. And then like, you know, team members too. The important ones that really always are super solid. She goes, the people you are making excuses to are the relationships you are sacrificing. I was like, God, just a dagger in the heart, you know? The ones that you think are in a nice and tidy box are the ones you forget about. And you're over here trying to put out fires with the other relationships that you're trying to kind of make sure that that's running right, or, you know, business or whatever, you know? I was like, that's a good one. And what was the other one? Let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Chris Drogmiller. He's with CMD Fencing. One, I really appreciate his support to the podcast. He listens to the podcast. But long before that, he has done several projects for me at my home, at our business. and the dude just does an awesome job. One of the things I really like about him is it's basically just him and someone that helps him. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The work is always high quality. If you've ever had a fence built, you know that the gate itself and how it opens and shuts is kind of the stamp of quality. It always works well. I've made him make some interesting kind of fencing where it's all horizontal. He had no problems with that, did a great job. And the guy is freaking awesome. He's easy to work with and he does a fantastic job. He's a firefighter. So, he works 2 days on and 2 days off. So he comes in and knocks my project out on the days that he's off. And the dude's awesome. You can find him on our website, overlaplife.com. You can find him on Facebook, CMD Fencing. And let's see, his phone number is 901-484-5546. So if you need a fence, need some fence work, call Chris Drogmiller, CMD Fencing. Hey there. My good friend Steve Bousquet and his partner Christine Era, the owners of Green Profit Academy, are super excited about a new product they've got coming out. If you didn't know, they're the authors of Profit First for the Lawn Care Business. And it's a book written by Christine Era. Steve plays a big role in sort of adding to that. But they've got that book. It's already out. But if you're an audiobook listener and you just learn better by listening, they've got the audio version coming out. And I think this is really cool. They've got Christine Era narrating the audiobook, and she does a really good job. I've heard some clips of it. It's pretty fantastic. And Mike Michalowicz, the original author of Profit First, he reads the foreword. And so they've got a book launch that's going to come out on their website, Green Profit Academy, and you should stay tuned for more information about that. They're going to have some giveaways. They're going to have some other special deals going on. But the book itself, the audio book, will come out September 12th. So please be on the lookout for that. And if you need some help with Profit First for your green industry business, please give them a call or look them up, Green Profit Academy. Thanks so much. Get clear in your own life and your business. Get clear. She talked about, knowing who you are. Knowing who you are and what you want are the most generous questions you can answer. It's not selfish to think about what do I want out of this business, out of this life, out of this relationship, all that stuff. And then she follows that up with, would you want to follow someone that doesn't even know who they are? I was like, oh man, she did that much more eloquently than I just did, but the concept's still the same. And then she really sort of closes the whole talk and lands the plane with, get clear in your own life and your business will follow. You got to know who you are and what you want out of things before the business will start to operate in that direction. I was like, oh, dang, she killed it, So
if I think about the things in business that's plagued me, it's probably that.
Yeah, just uncertainty and lack of clarity and floating through business and life without real intentionality. And you end up being flashy or transactional. If we go back to yours, instead of being relational and building,
Yeah,
with
building
intent.
trust even with our team members.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm even
Team members,
transactional
clients,
there.
relationships.
Hey, I need this from you, and I expect you to give it back to me.
There we go.
But building no trust.
Yeah. So she was great. A guy named Rand Stagen with the Stagen Group talked about next level leadership. And just to cruise through that, he talked about the Fortune 500 dilemma, where there's a 50% churn in the people that are in the Fortune 500 every 10 years. And only 10% of those folks last after 25 years. And he goes, basically, companies just don't change. They get to the Fortune 500, and this sort of relates to everyone else too, but you get to a certain level of business, and what got you to that level isn't going to be what keeps you around or gets you to the next level. You got to constantly be changing. You got to constantly be looking for improvements. And he said this, the unlocking move is companies don't change. Upstream is culture, and leadership choices and actions create the culture that creates the change. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. It's just eloquent, you know, and it sort of puts into words things you kind of know intuitively, but until someone says it, you don't really think about it in those terms. I don't think about it in those terms. And when he says it simply like that, it's easier for me to understand and take action. I was like, man, that's super good. The next one was this guy named Lewis Schiff. And this might've been one of the most influential ones where, especially for visionary, he just broke down the four ways visionaries add extraordinary value to their business. And he talks about moonshots or money makers. And he goes, man, moonshots are the folks that are unlimited growth potential. A lot of that stuff is tech. You know, you can get to, you know, $1 billion, right? Or $200 billion. You could be global and stuff like that. And tech can sort of allow you to get there. But he's got, he's like, or money makers. Money makers are the ones that are just solid and looking to make money and making solid returns, like 20%, 25% every month, every year, you know, and then growing that incrementally over the course of the next decade. And I'm like, well, that's good. And he goes, I don't care which one you are, but you got to kind of figure out which one you are. And then he goes, from there, visionaries need to understand these four pillars, which are capital market readiness. And that is, do you understand what's going on in the capital markets out in the world? Like, what's private equity doing, you know, and what's the multiple for a business like yours going for? How do you add value and make that, whether you're going to sell or not, you know? And then financial model transformation, like in your market, what are the big guys or girls or players doing? You know, what are they doing where are they shifting their dollars? What's their research and development going into? And that could be a lot of different things. And that may not be very relevant for you listening to this, but I think you need to kind of be aware. If you're a painting company, is there a big consolidation in painting companies? You know, if you're a chemical sales person, or, you know, you've got a little chemical sales company and it's just you and two salespeople and one warehouse person and whatever, right? Well, are the manufacturers buying up all the distributors? And I know a guy that's what happened to, and I was thinking like, man, yeah, you kind of got to know that, because if the manufacturer ends up buying up everyone around you, you just get squeezed out. You can't keep the margins that they're able to operate on because they're producing the chemical, you know?
So you're saying watch the markets.
Watch the markets. You need to
know what your competitors are doing.
Yeah. And then he goes, you know, the visionary should really be able to think about how sales are done in your organization, be intentional with your marketing. What's the unique offering you have? Think about those things in your space so you can stand out and have a unique selling proposition. Was it unique selling proposition? Yeah, is that USB? Something like that. And then this is something that I've actually been learning more and more. That VTO, the VTO, the vision really is yours. You know, where are you going in 10 years? And then you should have multiple models thinking about what does your accountability chart, or in, you know, regular terms, what's your org chart look like? If you're growing from 1 million to 2 million in the next 3 years, well, 2 million, what does that accountability chart or organizational chart look like? So you know the seats you need to be looking for and looking to fill, or training people to step up into these. You know, you need to be thinking about scalable management. How do you scale up that management? I was like, man, this guy's legit, dude. That's what a visionary is doing. Those four things, thinking about those all the time. And then, you know, we had, I can't remember the guy's name. But we had that, cause he had a handout and I just took my notes on that. But you know, the guy that had the performance intention matrix, and really an X and Y axis where you've got performance going up 1 to 10, tension going over 1 to 10, and he had a rubber band as his example, and he said, look, this rubber band is just in his palm or on a desk, and there's no tension on it, so there's no performance at all. It's just a worthless piece of rubber right there. It's not doing anything, doesn't really add any value or have any value. He said, but you start to pull that rubber band a little bit and it can work. It can do some things. It can hold your papers or a set of plans. It can hold a bunch of pictures together. It can hold your money together. I've seen that a lot. You can pull it back and I can shoot you in the eye with it, and that's always fun. There's kinetic energy with that. But so in that axis, he uses that to explain no tension. There's no performance, and what you have, he names it. You've got entitlement. You pull that rubber band too far, all the way, you get to where it breaks or burnout, right? And so our job as leaders is to get people to the ideal tension on that rubber band, or with leading others, the ideal tension on that, so you get the most performance. And I think EOS really helps that with to-dos and rocks and same page meetings and everything else. Right? It looked like you were jumping in there.
It's all about, well, I was just thinking the overlap on that.
Yeah.
Like in our families, we should do the same thing. I think we're at this place where we're like, no tension. We should have no tension.
Oh, yeah.
Well, sometimes tension is needed to make change.
Sometimes, all the time. There is literally a statement that's been around forever: no pain, no gain, or there's no growth in the comfort zone. And I use this analogy all the time with our people, but and I'm sure the listeners can understand. Like, you don't just jump out of the truck and go deadlift 500 pounds. If you want to deadlift 500 pounds, it's going to take. Now, I use that analogy because it doesn't take a lot of skill, not a whole lot of skill. You can pick up the technique of deadlift pretty quick. And there's not a lot of mobility involved in it. So, but I could deadlift 500 pounds. You could deadlift 500 pounds. Jordan could deadlift 500 pounds if we were dedicated on that. And it takes focus and intentionality and tension. You're going to have to do a lot of reps at 325, and then you'll have to do a lot of reps at 400, and you'll have to do a lot of reps at 450, and you have to do a lot of reps. That tension and going to failure is what creates the growth that is necessary.
There's no better depiction than adult children that get out of the nest.
Yeah, go on. Get out of here and live on life's terms.
So when I've seen the places that I did not create enough tension in my kids' lives, it's where they fail in adulthood.
Yeah. Well, fail. They run into obstacles.
Correct.
They're not as prepared.
Right.
Because they haven't had the tension. But
it's where
life will give it to them.
Right.
There's no avoiding it, man.
No, there's not.
I guess there's avoiding it.
And even in my life, the places where I've crumbled and had to rebuild are the places that I could have prepared if I had just placed a little tension in those areas.
100%. Yeah, I went broke because I didn't pay enough attention to the numbers, and now I'm kind of a numbers nerd. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
It's never going to, it was that, I better knock on wood, not say never going to happen. I'm going to work real hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
Me too. I just got nervous when you said that because I've been there too.
I felt it. So that was good. And then I just, sharing your VTO to the next level, bringing clarity, energy, and urgency. We do talk about it in our State of the Company address every quarter, but I just really haven't done it to this level. And so I kind of, with our energy group, that nonprofit EOS group that we put on here in Fairhope, which, fun fact, I think we're going to start another one over in Mobile to sort of spread the good word. But like, I sort of summarized everything to foundational learning. I picked up these tips: simply running EOS better, by working to solve 7 to 10 issues per week in our leadership L10, we weren't doing that. We were solving 3 maybe. And I was like, we just got to move quicker to solve more issues. We're taking too much time debating it and all that stuff. We got to move quicker. And so we just set a target, a goal to solve 8 each week. Then 90% completion is our goal. All to-dos, that's every week. I'm like, man, there's just measurables. And this is what made me think about it. Do you know why CrossFit is, and this is my opinion, fitness people, don't send in your whatever, your hate mail, send it to Keith. But this is my opinion. You know why CrossFit is a vastly superior exercise regimen for everyone?
Because there's measurables.
Measurables and intensity. Intensity is brought because there's a freaking clock there. We're working against the clock. We're measuring it, and we're competing against each other a little bit. Like, it's not like I'm trying to elbow you to get out of the way. Oh, I might elbow you. But like the regular person isn't trying to like knock you off the bar, when you're doing muscle ups, but we're trying to compete and get better. And every week every time we see, all right, we're going to do, this, take Fran, for instance. I know what my Fran time is. And the next time we do Fran, I'm going to try to beat it. You know how you do that? Being more intense. And so that you get to that ceiling or whatever that you think that red line number or that work capacity is, and you try to push on past that. That's how you get better.
Hey, I want to talk about my friend Ross Sykes at Homefront Lending. He's a mortgage broker that can help you find a home when you don't typically fit in the norm and get you financed. Reach out to Ross at hflend.com. He specializes in mortgage products for first-time homebuyers, veterans, and self-employed borrowers. They are in the business to serve you beyond the transaction. At Homefront, they are always honored to serve. hflend.com.
Okay, guys, everyone knows if you're a business owner, a business leader, or you're just a person in the world needing help with accounting, you need a real partner. You need someone that's going to listen to you and not just plug numbers in to make their job easy to do your taxes. At least that's what I want. I've been through a lot of accountants in my life, and I have yet to find one even remotely as good as Johnny Baranco. He's the owner of Baranco and Associates, and he's the kind of guy that really doesn't manipulate your books to make his job easier. He really is trying to give you insights into your business or into your financial planning world. Whatever your goals are, he's there to help. And so I just encourage you to give him a call. Baranco and Associates, look him up online. It's barancoandassociates.com and just see if he can help you. He really is the accountant that I recommend to everyone, even before he was a sponsor of the podcast. So please, if you need an accountant, just do yourself a favor and give him a call. I'm like, man, that's freaking, it overlaps everywhere.
Oh yeah, measurable set intensity.
Man,
you want to look at that? It really does.
It's like so good.
You know what to be intense about. You don't even know what to be intense about in your business unless you measure.
Yeah, I sort of went off on a little tangent there. I got super hyped up, but yeah, those 90% completion rate on to-dos and just measuring that makes you get those damn to-dos done. I'm like, oh, that's so good. And then have the people call out their data and call out their to-dos at the end. Call out their data as you're going through the data, which we got away from that. Duh. We know that. But at the end of the L10, when you're summarizing, have the people call out their own to-dos. Yep, this is what I've agreed to. This, and this. So that's foundational. And then next level was Gino Wickman's 7 things. And he asked the question, he opens it up and like, what's the number one reason a company becomes great? Do you remember what that was? The number one reason companies become great.
I can't remember what he said.
And he pulls up the accountability chart. It's that leadership team. And I'm like, oh, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And so his number one thing was, number one, do you have a rock star in every seat? And that's really what you got to try to do.
I did not like my score.
I didn't. Talking about measurables, he asked you to score yourself in each one of these. Rockstar in each seat. Score the leaders in each one of the seats you have. And if you're listening, just think about that. And how many 5s and 6s do you have? You know, you're looking for 8, 9s, or 10s. And then, are you all 100% on the same page? Score yourself there. You speak one language. Are you guys using the same terminology for everything? And I thought that was like just a throwaway question, but the more I thought about it, it made more sense. And like, man, there's some things that we're using a little bit different language on. And is that the same language that's going to the rest of the team? Is that the same language that's going out to our marketing?
So we just put a good book on our Stuff We Like page on overlap.com
True.
About that, right? Winning with Accountability talks all about that one thing.
Yeah, just using the same language is great. And then open and honest. Are you and your leadership team, are you open and honest, or are you guys guarded? Have you built up enough trust that you can say, hey, Keith, man, you've been talking about this thing for the last 3 weeks and you still haven't done it. Like, is this an issue that we need to bring up? Is there something you got? Are you just distracted? Is everything okay? Is this not the right seat for you? You know, are you able to ask those questions? Have you built up enough trust?
Hard conversations.
Are you fanatical about resolution? And I don't know that question's that was such a good one, because we put those to-dos up there and we put up issues, but I don't know that we've gotten fanatical about the resolution, you know? Or at least in my mind, and I might be holding myself to a higher standard, or being harder on myself. You treat each other with respect. You know, that's an easy one to sort of just judge. And then the last one is Keith's favorite. Do you possess the secret sauce? And the secret sauce was what?
Being a fuzzy lovey bear.
Yeah, love. I mean, are you doing everything in your organization with love in your heart, which I thought was silly until he really explains it. Like, are you really operating out of the greater good for the organization, for the individual, for the client, for the community, for the world as a whole? And I'm like, man, you know, you can start connecting all that stuff, and it just makes the decisions a little more simple, but maybe not as easy. You may have to have a hard conversation, crucial conversation with a team member that just doesn't need to be at your place anymore. We've had more of that this summer this spring than I thought we would. And it's just wrong person, wrong seat. And they're not bad people. They just don't need to be in the seat that they're in.
And some people wouldn't look at that as love, but it is.
It's love. They're just cruising through life, you know, thinking they're just making a paycheck, and they're not in the right seat. They're not in a position of strength, that they're utilizing their God-given talents, and they need to go look someplace else to sort of apply those at someplace else.
I would definitely say that if you're the leader of your organization and you allow people to sit in the wrong seat, you're robbing them. You are, but most people aren't thinking of it that way. They're just thinking, I've got this box, the seat filled, and I'm checking the box here. I've got other issues to think about, like, you know, getting back to the client, or, you know, finding the right piece of equipment, or making payroll, or, you know, finding an office that fits all of us, or what, you know, hiring, you know, 2 or 3 more field personnel to help us get through this season, whatever, you know. But he really talks about that leadership team and scoring it, and then having enough love for the organization, for the individual, to have a hard conversation. I was like, man, Gino Wickman's legit, dude. He's turned the corner, obviously, from being like this integrator, visionary person that creates EOS and all the EOS Worldwide. And I think now he's really stepped back, and he's got this big spirituality sort of lean to him.
which I'm not against. You can just tell it's a different deal now.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that he's kind of made it.
He's made it. And so he's like rocketed to the fourth dimension of existence or something, and I'm like, hopefully I'll get there at someday. Right now, I still feel like an operator a little bit, but he is giving us an example of what you could be like, It was freaking awesome.
I struggled a little bit with all the visionary talk.
Sure.
Because I'm still at that place where I'm having to sit in multiple seats, and of course I don't want to.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to us right now saying, well, I can't even think about being a visionary because I'm still doing the work.
Sure. Well, go ahead. I've got some solutions for that.
It should be on your agenda to not be doing the work.
Well, I do think that, let's be real honest with everyone. Number one, you're not able to get out of just doing the work until you get to a certain size. Now, you really have to ask yourself, who do you want to be? And if you don't want to get to that size, this really helps you become a little bit of a visionary, because that's what you need if you're running an organization or owning it or the founder. The quarterly meeting is where you get to be strategic. It's about a day. It could be a half a day, but you get to be a bit of a visionary at that point. You can take a Sunday afternoon for 4 hours to just think too. There's a great book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Highly recommend that. If you're not sure what clarity breaks are or how to be a visionary, he wrote a whole damn book on how to just stop and think, and how to think about one really big problem, take a notepad, turn everything off, and just sit there. And he talks about how it takes you a little while to transition into it and start writing all the stuff down. And then at the end of a specific time period, you go in and start circling out the ones that you think would actually work, and then thinking through how do you execute on those ideas. That's a great one. And you may not be able to be a visionary 100% of the time. But you need to be one for a little bit.
And I can tell you, though, it takes thinking to get to the place where you can release responsibilities.
Sure.
This week, I was able to do that a little bit. I was able to release some responsibilities to others on our team, and it's a great feeling when that can happen.
Yep.
But you have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about, is just preparing for the day when you can begin to let go of the reins a tad.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
there's no better system that prepares you for that than EOS, though.
I don't think so, man. It really is it's such a good framework to take all of the business ideas I've ever read or heard or tried to implement. It's a good framework to sort of run them all within. And it helps you. You want to run profit first? Cool. You just do it through EOS too. You want to run Jack Stack's Great Game of Business? Cool. You run it through EOS. There's quarterly meetings and, measurables and everything else. It's all in there. Ownership thinking, open book policy, all the other stuff, man. You want to do that? You can do that through EOS. It just gives you the framework and the disciplines embedded into a system that allows you to actually execute, instead of it being a great idea that you try to do for 1 month and then you forget about it for 11 months. So those are my thoughts. I got a lot more, but that's probably enough for today, because I hope people were actually taking some notes, and that's a lot of stuff to execute on. What you think, Keith?
I think all of that's great. And we're even in the podcast here taking it a step further. We're going to put a resource page. I came away saying, hey, we need to partner with these guys. And we set up some relationships while we were there.
We did.
So you'll be able to get to everything we just talked about through overlaplife.com. And for our listeners, we use a software called 90.
We do.
And that kind of helps us.
We're going to have a link there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That helps us kind of facilitate the EOS process, and I don't think we could do it without it.
I wouldn't want to. I did do it without it for about a year and a half, or maybe a little bit over a year, maybe not quite a year and a half, but I didn't know what I didn't know until I started using 90. I didn't realize how much work I was, needlessly putting into the operation and the facilitation of EOS.
And so if you want to try it for 30 days, you can go to overlaplife.com and they're going to give you 30-day free trial.
It doesn't take much time to set up, and I wouldn't start the free trial until you're ready to do like a quarterly or something to get it kind of set up. You do that to set some 1-year targets, 90-day targets, and then use 90 to sort of run your weekly L10s.
But yeah, so conference was incredible.
Dude, blew me away, man. It really blew me away. And I think you hit the nail on the head that I thought I was using EOS pretty well. And it was just eye-opening and maybe even jaw-dropping to know just how much is still available to utilize that I'm not using. It's crazy. It's fantastic, too. Those guys put on a great conference. It ran well, on time. People were pleasant. Content blew me away. The speakers were fantastic. It was great.
So to find out more, Overlap Life.
I think Keith for the first time was speechless there.
We just did a new web experience. Go check it out.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Like I said earlier in the episode, Sid and I put some stuff we like on a page called Stuff We Like.
Yeah, man. People have been asking us, and so we just dumped it on one page. I really like it. It's pretty awesome. That was Keith's idea. What a visionary.
If you scroll to the bottom of the page, Sid put his reading list on there that he makes all his management go through.
I request them to. It's highly encouraged that they read those things. I highly encourage you to read those books because leaders are readers. Wait, Rick Miller says, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. That's what he said. He's such a wordsmith.
He is a wordsmith.
Yeah. So,
Harvard.
Yeah, there you go. Harvard.
Thank you to Coastal Community College they've set us up in the studio.
Yeah, and speaking of Coastal Community College in the studio, Rick Miller and that whole Hatch deal is what got this thing off the ground. So thanks to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Hatch is a technology incubator here in Alabama that's doing some really cool stuff.
They are. All right. Hey, please follow our sponsors, help them out. If you need services, please reach out to them. We don't really even take sponsors unless we've got a relationship with them and we used them. So if we're saying, hey, let me talk about my friend here, they really are our friend and we've actually used them and we've been super impressed with the way they perform. And so we really do actually recommend them, and we don't make money off of this. We're just actually paying the editing fees and everything else. So please,
we just went through the budget. We know that.
We actually lost money, but we're okay with that. We're just trying not to lose our house to give you content. So please go support our sponsors. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks so much. Hey, thank you, listeners, for listening. Thanks for the solid feedback, and I've heard over the last couple of weeks just lots of people saying thanks for the content and the stories we're putting out there, and I think we are making an impact around the small business world. So thanks.
Thank you, and it's super humbling. By the way,
that it is.
You listen to us ramble about our musings about business.
Yeah. All right. I'm out.
Peace.
That's good. Freaking 55 minutes.
Yeah, we went.